Somebody will fixate on a mountaintop and another person will fixate on, a broken down tree that has, new life springing out of it. And yet another person will focus on some tiny little micro detail. You see then this process of, okay, why is that important to me? What's going on right now that is a metaphor in my life or in my personal work is relating to what I'm looking at and why I'm looking at it. It allows this kind of real gentle inquiry.
Welcome to Don't Step on the Bluebells, the podcast where personal healing and transformation take center stage. I'm your host, Amanda Parker, and I'm a fellow seeker on the journey of personal growth. Join me as I delve into the stories of gifted healers, guides, and everyday people who have experienced remarkable transformations. Listen in as they share their practical wisdom to enrich your everyday life. And don't forget to hit subscribe and never miss a new episode. Welcome to today's episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells. I'm here with the incredible Caitlin Cockerton, and we're going to be speaking all about healing with nature, and all of the incredible work that Caitlin's doing to guide people really through their inner and their outer wilderness. So Caitlin's a coach, a facilitator, a retreat guide who really works in this intersection of personal transformation, of leadership development, and blending in the natural world. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today, especially as nature is blooming all around us. So thanks for joining us, Caitlin.
Thanks so much, Amanda. I'm really happy to be here.
It's really an appropriate time. And I always find it funny, the timing of these conversations and also when the episodes are launching, because spring is blooming in London. The flowers are coming to life. Everything that I consider in London about seasons is like the muddy season and the not muddy season. We're officially in the not muddy season. So we can actually enjoy that nature around us.
It's so nice. I used to live in London and I remember spring just feeling that aliveness, and everybody comes out and starts taking off their layers and they're like, there's life again.
I remember from my days living in Germany, I used to just look at all the humans becoming sunflowers. They'd leave their house, and the first time the sun was really coming through again, everyone would just stand with their eyes closed, facing up towards the sun.
It's so good. We need it, right? I feel like spring is actually, in many ways, the proper entry into the new year, into the new cycle, and it's that reminder that everything that was barren and dry and seemingly dead in the winter, it had all of this inside of it, right? Just waiting for the right moment, waiting for that new cycle. And I love seeing just the beginnings of spring too, like the first buds coming out and you're like, oh, it's coming. And then now we're in that stage where spring is here. It's loud and clear, right? Like the birds are loud, the blossoms are out. You can see the pollen in the air, like everything's stirring. And it's beautiful because I feel our energy is doing the same, right? We are all going, oh, okay, I'm coming to life. I'm stirring. There's a real palpable energy shift in spring that feels really positive and really alive.
It's a beautiful entryway because as I'm listening to you speaking, all I'm thinking in my head is wow, this is so healing. And actually, I'd love to ask you, what does healing mean to you? When you think about what it means to go through that process of healing, or what does that look like?
Yeah, well, part of it, just to link to what I just said, right? We contain all of this all the time. And I think at the core, healing is a kind of remembering of who we truly are and all that we contain. And I love the duality of the word remembering, because it's remembering where I came from or who I am or what's within me, but it is also remembering So putting back together, making whole. It is about finding those points of disconnection and actually bringing them back into connection, into coherence and integration. And we want to do that within ourselves for our own healing, because all of us, I think we're born naturally creative and whole and beautiful with everything, just sort of born in possibility. And then as we go through life, these parts of ourselves kind of splinter off, and they bump into the challenges and the slings and arrows of life, and they react to them. They adapt to them. They evolve based on the circumstances that we are put in, right? And those parts of ourselves, they develop these adaptations in response to harsh circumstances, often in childhood. And that may be a survival mechanism at the time. But the problem is that when that becomes sort of stuck and stays with us as a feeling, an internalized belief, or a behavior, and then we bump into it again and again until the point where we go, hey, this is no longer adaptive. This is no longer, how I want to operate from just this part of me. How can I then take that part of me and really understand it, bring compassion and love, and reintegrate it and bring it back into my being in a way that is healed, that is part of the whole, and that hopefully transforms that feeling or behavior into something that is, truly beneficial to who you are and what you're doing in the world.
What a nice distinction of what it actually means to remember. So I often talk about healing in the context of coming back home to yourself and like knowing who you are, which is such a relief. I mean, when we go into that black hole of like not knowing, not understanding, uncertainty, things are cloudy, it's like a really painful place. And just giving yourself permission to be who you are, to remember who you are, and to live that way intentionally is, the most powerful healing that I know. And it sounds like even just the way that you describe bringing all those parts like back home to center, to the mothership, if you will, is really a piece of, finding that wholeness again.
100%, right? And it's so hard in our lives today, which are constantly go, 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 constantly fragmented, disconnected from nature, disconnected from who we are and how we sort of are naturally supposed to operate. It is so easy to live from a fragmented sort of just part of us place. And I think the wonderful work of doing internal family systems, which I'm not going to talk about today, or thinking of yourself as, this kind of natural being that has parts that need to return to the system that is you, the natural, beautiful system that is you. That's our work. That's our healing work in today's crazy society.
Yeah. I want to help give the context for everyone who's listening about like this healing through nature, because that can also mean so many different things to different people. But you have a really beautiful and unique way that you incorporate nature into what you do. So maybe you can share just a bit about what that work looks like. Like how do you engage with nature or introduce people to it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, lots of different ways. I guess one obvious way to start is in the retreat side, right? So I run personal development and leadership development retreats in the wilderness, in all sorts of beautiful places in Europe mostly. And what that looks like is we are either bringing in intact teams or dispersed leaders across an organization, or I'm running open retreats, or yet again, I run founder retreats. So entrepreneurs coming out to the wilderness to spend a collection of days to just slow down, really restore, disconnect from the daily life and reconnect to a rhythm that allows them to do all sorts of awesome personal development work, right? And we can get into the approach and why it works in nature. But that's one way, right? So running these retreats for different audiences, bringing them into nature and allowing nature to be a real partner and catalyst for change. I also do one-to-one coaching work. And quite often in my one-to-one coaching work, it might start online and, we build some foundations. But I love to get people out walking and talking on the phone in nature, in a beautiful place. And then again, we bring nature in as this kind of third partner into our dynamic. And it allows them a whole new set of tools to take with them, to go out into nature on their own and do their own, session, their own therapeutic work. So that's another beautiful way that I like bringing nature in. And then I'd say the final way is I create bespoke programs for my clients, in particular, like female founders who are working with me for a longer period of time. And they will do a combination of one-to-one coaching work and these sort of intensives in nature, where we go to a beautiful place for 3 or 4 days and really do a deep dive.
What do you think that nature brings into that experience that you don't get otherwise?
I want to say 2 things. I want to build off 2 points. One is that nature is just this incredible mirror to us. We ourselves aren't nature, but when we go out into nature, our subconscious does all of this beautiful meaning making as we allow ourselves to go to the things that interest us the most. So one of the exercises I'll always run with people is to go out, to walk in silence, to find a beautiful resting place, and then to say, all right, scan the horizon and just allow yourself to naturally pause and rest where your imagination wants to go further, right? Or, you want to build a story around that. And, somebody will fixate on a mountaintop and another person will fixate on, a broken down tree that has, new life springing out of it, or, and yet another person will focus on some tiny little micro detail. And you see then this process of, okay, why is that important to me? What's going on right now that is a metaphor in my life or in my personal work that is relating to what I'm looking at and why I'm looking at it? And it allows this kind of real gentle inquiry. It's not like too confronting, and it's a great way to get people started into personal work, because it's not like, okay, here's the work, let's go. It's sort of this gentle mirroring that nature provides for us. I'd say another thing that nature provides is just a whole host of benefits, right? There are studies that basically tell us nature decreases anxiety, it improves mood, it increases creativity and our ability to problem solve. In a team context, it helps us become more adaptable, more creative, and more collaborative as well. And then finally, this experience of doing development work in nature just reconnects us to ourselves, each other, and the natural world. And it helps us think, I want to take care of each of those systems. I want to take care of my natural system because I too am nature. I too am in need of all of the things that makes my natural system thrive. We as a collective system are in operation, and we need to take care of each other in a particular way. And we definitely need to take care of our world better, and we take care of the things that we stop to notice and cultivate a connection with. So I'm deeply passionate about, the bigger picture piece as well. Go out into nature, because we all need to care more about our natural systems at every single level.
That's so beautiful. As you're talking and describing, I can imagine sitting there in like a resting place, as you say, and just connecting to whatever it is that's in front of you that catches your attention or creates a sense of awe or wonder and allows your mind to just run off wherever it wants to go in that daydreaming, in that creation. And there's also this sense, I mean, you mentioned how nature is mirroring what's happening for us or within us, how it is a great mirror for us. And as you're describing that, working collectively, being collaborative, being creative, these are things that nature just is and doesn't have to think about it. It just does that. So by allowing ourselves to really immerse in that wonder of how that all works and what's possible in nature that like we never would have imagined is possible, helps us reconnect to those pieces of ourself as well. Hey, Amanda here. Are you a woman healer doing this work alone, craving a community that truly gets you? I know what it's like, searching for others who understand your gifts while building a sustainable practice. That's why I created the Women Healers Collective, where healers come together to share wisdom and grow their impact. Visit womenhealerscollective.com now and join a community that uplifts your magic.
100%, right? Like it's this great empathic, compassionate, neutral witness to what is going on inside of us. And what's amazing is, no matter where you are in nature, as long as you're in a wildish place, you will be able to find almost everything, right? That you could be contemplating or struggling with or coming up against, right? Like nature is amazing. We have all of this beautiful harmony that might be happening in one part of the ecosystem. You have things interacting and constantly moving and changing and adapting for the benefit of some little part of this ecosystem. And then in another area, you might look and you might see something that was really disruptive. Something broke, lightning hit, and all of a sudden there was this enforced change on that context. Okay, then how does that context, evolve and respond? And then you can have something, totally different. Like, okay, let's look up at the mountains, these things that have been around for, millions of years, slowly moving and changing and inviting our interest in all sorts of different ways. I just think almost no matter what you're going through in your personal growth journey, if you take that into nature as a context and as a partner and as a friend and mirror, you're going to have an interesting kind of dialogue.
It's also a really important reminder. I mean, for someone like me who is prone to overthinking and planning and like really getting stuck in my head. So if I have new ideas, I want to execute on them. I want to bring them to life. I want to like get into the weeds on doing. And very often, I mean, sometimes that serves me and sometimes it's just like total overwhelm and I can no longer even see clearly. And just taking even a half an hour to go walk in the park or go walk along a stream, I suddenly feel my whole nervous system relaxing. I feel myself being more grounded, like maybe something that felt so incredibly stuck just disappears. Like it's just not stuck. The clarity is just there so obviously.
Totally. So it can invite you to that next step or that different perspective that you need, right? So you're describing, okay, I'm completely in the weeds, I'm in the thick of it. And maybe it's interesting. You go into a forest and you feel the intensity of its kind of denseness, and that mirrors where you are. But then you move through and there's a clearing and you get an incredible view. And you're like, I just need to keep moving. And then there's a clearing. And then we get to a whole new perspective. And now I see where I am. I see where I've come from. And now I can see the new horizon and I see where I'm going. And I'm going to take that path. That's what's calling me, you know?
So, how did it come to be that you started doing this work?
A very meandering path.
Yeah. Naturally.
um, I think what's nice is that, yeah, were I to tell my 5-year-old self that this is kind of what I'm doing, it would make perfect sense. But the root there is, amusing almost. How many twists and turns one has to take to find what was really there right from the start. So I will say I'm Canadian originally. I, was born to two kind of wild hippie parents who were both academics, but they decided to buy a 100-acre farm in the middle of nowhere in sort of an hour north of Toronto. So I grew up in this beautiful natural environment, right? I had an incredible natural landscape to roam, and my parents were definitely kind of advocates of a nature-based free-range childhood. I just got let outside the door and I had dogs and cats and horses and, plenty to entertain myself outside with. And I think that kind of partnership and at home with and in nature and curiosity about and collaboration with nature is like deeply in my bones. I can immediately just feel at home and anchored, remembering building forts and climbing trees and making little universes and telling stories to myself in nature, right? That's how I grew up. Then, of course, I went off, became an adult, moved into all sorts of different parts of the world, and other parts of me, academic, nerdy parts of me got carried away. I had a whole chapter in academia. Then I sort of took a move into business consulting and spent, more than 10 years in design thinking and business consulting and innovation, that world. And then I had my own child, and I faced, that kind of midlife moment of, where am I? Does this make sense? I am clearly in a new chapter. And, what do I really want for myself and my family and my daughter? This all came together around the pandemic. I realized I wanted to leave my busy consulting job and the kind of hectic London lifestyle that myself and my husband had been living for, at that point, 13 years. And we dreamed about living in the mountains. We dreamed about having a kind of nature-based childhood for our own daughter. We had the Brexit date looming, and we decided to make a leap for the French Alps. And we did just that. And I think at that time, this was actually around 2019, I was already thinking about, I really want to get back into nature, and I really want to kind of combine the work I've been doing in leadership and team development with being outdoors. Like, it was my dream then in 2019 to be doing work that I love doing, but doing it outside. I didn't really know how that was going to work, but I started to run little pilots in and around the South Downs in the UK. I ran a few pilots before we moved to France. Yeah, then it was mid-pandemic. We moved to the French Alps. I had, I was gone from my job then by a few months, and that was really the time for me to lean into coaching, personal development plus nature, and how is this all going to work? But I guess, like anybody trying to find, their way, but piece things together that are really important to them, You just do that bit by bit, right? And so I began running these little open retreats for my first clients in coaching. And, at this point, they were sort of women who were intrapreneurs, like people who were working in corporate jobs, but super entrepreneurial. And maybe they had the desire to break free and go and, live their entrepreneurial journey. But that was the audience that I sort of started with, and that I'm still working with today. And I began to run these retreats in the French Alps, and then I've been doing that now for 5 years, and it's expanded and changed and gone into all sorts of different directions. And now I run founder retreats. I work with a company called Trailhaven, and we do much more sort of corporate leadership and team development in nature. But yeah, I would say there comes a point where you go, hey, this is not working for me anymore. And if I really ask myself, what do I want to be doing? What are the ingredients? What lights me up? What would, make for a beautiful work for me to do in the world? It is like, okay, these are the ingredients. How do I play with that? How do I begin to test and experiment? And it's still a work in progress, right? Like that's where I have been, and I know that it's always growing and changing and moving and taking me into little diversions as I keep going.
Well, I think it's a really timely message, because I know this is something I experience honestly over and over again. Like, my whole journey has been that reinvention, like finding the thing, moving through it, and then thinking, okay, this is starting to feel a little bit, too confined. What else is there that I want to do? And I know, like, certainly for my clients, for plenty of people listening to this, this is a really big moment of change for a lot of people who know they want things to be different. They don't really know what that's going to look like yet. They might know the relationship or the job or the business, something's not quite working. So I think this story that you're sharing of your own experience is like really powerful, because a lot of people are facing this today and wondering, how do I even start to find those ingredients? Like, what do I even need to do to pull those pieces together to even be able to look at them? And I think just what's coming up for me as well is, how do you get through those layers of conditioning and what you should be doing and all the things you've been working hard for, because it's the quote unquote right path forward, the future you quote unquote want? How do you even put that aside to start looking at what it is that really calls you? Any advice there that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways of approaching that, right? And I think it's really important to honor what's going on for any one individual, right? And I know there's some sort of guidance out there that's like, just throw it to the wind and, live your best life. And,
We're all moving to Bali.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that that's right for everybody. So I would firstly counsel people to, really carve out time to listen to themselves, to slow down, to seek out guides and people who aren't advocating for a particular thing or a particular path, but are guides that are helping you tune into yourself, your own wisdom, your own answers, right? It starts definitely with slowing down. And listen, like, nature can be a huge help, right? One simple thing you can think about is, close your eyes and take yourself back to a memory when you were in nature at any age in your life and everything felt right for you. Your body like fully aligned and alive and attuned to your environment, your interplay with the environment, just dancing in a beautiful way. Begin there as a kind of resource and reference point. And think about, how can I create moments in nature that mirror that type of, resource place that you have in mind. And how can you go to that place? How can you create that place and give yourself a bit of space to slow down, to reflect, to connect to yourself, connect to the environment? Things begin to open up and you will, carry on from there. And for some people, they need to see a coach or a therapist or speak with a great friend and kind of work through what's stuck and where they want to go, and they need a little inspiration or guidance or nudge. And for other people, you can also give yourself that time and space and wait and see what comes up. I think when we wait and we're in constant distraction and in constant motion with the day to day, it's very easy not to get the wisdom from within. It's very easy to drown that out. But if you create the space and the time and the slowing down, I actually think you can do a lot of great work on your own.
Beautiful message. Everyone listening, do that. It's really, really powerful. And in a world where we're told to speed up and keep up and, keep showing up, and social media is everywhere. And especially for those of us who have our own business, it's so easy to get caught up in like the doing of things and the permission to just slow down, to literally just take the time off. Like for me, like, for example, this weekend, I just spent the whole weekend in the garden, in the parks nearby, looking at flowers blooming. And I mean, the week then started peacefully, grounded, feeling confident, feeling happy, feeling nurtured. And yeah, I think it's such simple wisdom, which it often is. It's like the simplest wisdom that is the most profound, but just slow down. And if you have the, blessing to have nature nearby, which even in cities, most of us have some element of nature nearby, to remember to connect with that, that will always guide you to that centered wisdom that you're looking for.
And it does not need to be, you don't need to go on a retreat. You don't need to go find a
But it is
guru.
so nice when you do. But yes.
It is. It's amazing, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm an advocate. That's what I do for a living. Come, join me. I'd love to have you. And you can go to a beautiful park, in a city right now. You can find yourself walking around slowly at a quarter of the pace you would normally walk, and allow yourself to be guided towards something that interests you. A beautiful tree, a patch of flowers, a nice, fuzzy patch of grass, and then just go and be in that place for a bit. A few big deep breaths, ground yourself, and one simple question. Nature around me, beautiful thing that I'm looking at. What would you have me know right now? What do I need to know right now? And just wait. Just wait. I mean, it sounds like you're cuckoo in the coconut, right? You just go and ask a flower, what would you have me know? But I'm serious.
You have the right audience for this here.
Yeah, I mean,
healers live for this stuff.
But it's there, right? It's there because it's in you. It's in you. It's mirrored in what you're looking at.
It also reminds me a bit of, so during the coach training I did, I believe we trained with the same place, Coactive. There was this one experience, I don't remember in which level it was, where they had us experience the difference of our pace of walking. And they would have us walk either super fast or then really slow, or like speed walking, something in between. And they had us like really change up this pace of walking over the course of, I don't know, maybe it was 15, 20 minutes. I have no idea how long we were doing it. And just observe how we felt as we were doing that. And the difference between walking slowly, leisurely, looking around, taking in the other people or the different lighting or trees outside or whatever it was, versus when you were just moving fast and trying not to knock into anyone else. It was like absolutely, I mean, it still stuck with me now, what, like 7, 8 years later. I still remember that moment. It was so powerful to see the difference between when I'm rushing, 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 or like actually allowing things to move slowly.
You're being a human being in that moment, right? You are alive to the many capacities that you have for being in the world and gathering information when you slow down. So one of the other exercises I would love for people to try is a kind of slow sensing walk in nature. So very deliberately going sense by sense. And firstly, you have to do your visual sense because that's the most overwhelming one that we're all driven by. Take in the macro environment and very slowly allow your visual attention to come down to the micro level in an environment and really absorb what it is you're seeing without naming it, without prescribing the meaning, but just see how much detail and information you can take in visually. It's very important you do the visual first because we're all visual dominant. Then you need to, cast your gaze downwards and really soften your gaze, and then work on your auditory sense and start listening and try to listen into the many, many levels of things that are going on right now, and you will hear an overwhelming sound. Maybe there's, a flight, or there's traffic, or there's something else. But you will also hear many micro levels of sound going on. You will begin to hear your own breath, your own heartbeat, your own footsteps, the insects, the birds, the wind as it travels across your hair and through your ears. I mean, so you have so much more available in each sense, and then just move on. Same with smell, same with taste, same with touch. And you can really do this meditation, slow walking, sensing meditation over the course of 20, 30 minutes. And it's incredible what we have available to us as sensing beings. This is how we are supposed to be in the world, really, like so how we're designed to live in nature, alive and attuned with our senses to what's going on around us, picking up all of this information and then following it. So I highly recommend that. And the difference that you're describing in this walk is like, well, what happens when I go in and I'm in my logical brain state and I'm like, I got to get somewhere. You're laser focused and you're moving fast, and you have to move from A to B, and you're really not focusing on a whole lot else, right? But what happens when you slow down and you invite the full range of information through your senses is phenomenal. Like, so much opens up. So just go out and enjoy that. And I would add one other piece to your exercise, which is just something we like to do in facilitating, groups in the outdoors, to play with the types of language and experiences that people would be doing in the outdoors. So imagine you're out and you're walking and you are a hunter or a tracker, and you are stalking something, and you are walking very, very slowly. You are making as little a sound as possible. You are tuned into the ground, the trees, any rustling, any sounds, and you are looking for something in particular. Like, that changes the experience hugely. That's an interesting one. You can also say, what if I'm a seeker out here? What if everything around me is actually trying to give me some kind of information? How do I walk around as a seeker? Changes your experience so much.
Yeah, I'm ready to go back into the garden now. I guess as soon as we're done recording, I'm going to go sit in the grass and try this out. Um, yeah, I'd love to hear just some stories from the wilderness, if you will, of what is actually possible with this work. So I know that you're guiding teams. I think for a lot of people, that's really hard to imagine. Like, what if my whole team comes together and we go, like, what's happening there? Are we worshiping trees? No. What's actually like possible when you bring people together in the wilderness like that? What changes have you seen happen?
Well, the thing I would say is the whole context provides this incredible experiential metaphor for different parts of leadership that are really important, right? And organizations or different clients will all have different needs. And that's the first step, is actually to explore where they are, what are the challenges that they're having, where are they excelling as leaders, and where do they need to focus their work, right? I think one of the easy ways of doing this is I'll credit Trailhaven, because this is work I've been doing with Trailhaven, to think about what leadership pillars are really alive to us in nature. And there are four. We say there's mindful self-awareness, that ability to really slow down and be present to what is going on, what gets activated in you, what is it that you need to, work on and address in nature. We can bring that up. There is empowering collaboration. So being in nature as a group, as a team, is a wonderful experience that invites you to work together to solve challenges. Like, maybe we're going to ask you to navigate from point A to point B, and we're going to give you very few resources. And how are you going to do that as a team? That's an exciting exercise.
Like dropping you in the wilderness, find your way home kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm,
Ooh.
Or we ask you, we teach you a bunch of skills, and then we ask you to set up camp for the evening. And we invite everybody to use their different skills to set up camp, to gather the materials, to build fires, to build shelter, to, create an environment that everybody can enjoy for the evening. We frequently do solo work. So having these sort of mini vision quests for participants outdoors all night, and part of that is a real solo experience, like the mindful self-awareness first pillar that I was talking about. But part of that is empowering collaboration and working together. And the third pillar that we talk about bringing to life in nature is creative adaptation. Right? I said one of the things that the research shows is that we become more creative, we become better problem solvers, and we are constantly inspired by the adaptations that nature is showing us. So, okay, if you guys need to work as an organization, as a team, around your innovation, around your creativity, around your problem solving skills, I mean, we can throw in all sorts of activities and challenges, both deliberate and just natural ones that we come across because we're out in nature and it's asking you to be adaptive and creative all the time. And you've got to work on that in an experiential way. So maybe it's part of a challenge that you have to gather all of these types of resources, or we are setting people a challenge of getting from one point to another. And then the fourth pillar is a sustainable stewardship. So we want people to actually believe that they can be responsible agents of positive change in their organizations and in the world. And we want people to go out and, as I said earlier, experience that connection to themselves, to each other, and to nature, and to feel responsible for it, to feel like this is worth preserving. This is an important part of my purpose. Yeah, I would say for anyone who's a leader of an organization or a team who's thinking about, the challenges that they're having developmentally, or thinking about how to do, an offsite that people will remember and develop from, I can honestly say there is no better classroom for leadership and team development than going in the outdoors. And there's a way of doing it that is inclusive and empowering and beautiful for everyone. We can accommodate every kind of person who is, fearful of nature through to the person who is,
You said setting up camp, and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah. I mean, let me tell you how many people feel that way when we tell them we're going to be here for the night. But it's such a powerful teacher. And people come away with this embodied experience, lessons that run so deep in their bodies, in their memories, together as a team, and they translate it to their workplace, and they translate it to the problems they're trying to solve. But actually, importantly, we didn't go directly to the problems that you're trying to solve. We provided a context that very cleverly allows you to mirror what's going on in your leadership, in your team dynamics, etc. And then we say, okay, shall we look at that? Shall we go a little deeper? And how could we improve? How could we improve that setting up camp, or that navigation exercise, or that, stalking game, or, and we learn something very, very interesting about our leadership.
So it sounds like people come into this experience. Probably, I can just imagine. I was, had my corporate days, and I've also done like trainings with leadership teams, things like that. I can imagine they're coming and they're like, yeah, okay, like another leadership retreat, or like, let's check this one off the box. And then they're actually immersed in this wild experience that they've possibly never experienced before, or maybe not since they were kids. And they're basically learning how to interact with the world around them, how to take lessons from all of these life skills, how to collaborate differently, how to build their own confidence, to feel courageous. Like, it sounds like it's really, you're really working on that. I mean, the in-speak would be self-leadership as well, but really helping people build that confidence and courage within themselves that they can handle this, which also then translates back into the workplace, or into their teams or their families, or wherever else things might not quite feel how they want them to.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely translates in all sorts of different directions, right? When they come out, it's an experience that may be driven by a team, or, a company wanting to bring something to the organization. But I think the impact will be felt in all sorts of ways.
You also told me that there's this element of what you do that's also with founders. And I'm really curious to hear what's possible through that experience. Like, if you're bringing founders together who, maybe they're struggling to collaborate or to grow, and you actually bring them together into this wild experience, what have you seen happen?
Well, I'm getting ready for a tech founders retreat over this coming weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. So, how do I work with founders? One way is that we have a founders retreat where a collection, let's say 8 to 10 founders from different organizations, come and experience a retreat over the course of 4 days. We run those here in the French Alps. And what's amazing is founders are usually incredibly focused, overstretched, stressed. Their eye
what's
is
that
on,
like? I don't understand.
Yeah. Their eye is always on the next problem at hand. And they have to do all of that. And in the face of all of that, they also feel an incredible loneliness, an incredible sense of, this is all on me. And I think one of the things that's so beautiful about coming together in an environment that disconnects them from their day to day, we are away from the city, we're in the mountains, we're in a beautiful location. We tell everybody to give us their phones. They properly disconnect from the day to day, and they do, combination of just allowing nature to work its magic and kind of slow their system down and do all of that great stuff that it does to our minds and bodies. B, looking at their own personal development work that they have to do, because that then opens up. We firstly drop the energy. Secondly, we start looking at what's present and what are we here to work on. And then thirdly, those founders are also coming together to be in community, to be in mentorship, to be in peer-to-peer support. They're doing that in this very special container where everybody is letting their cards out, you know. And I think the friendships that are born in that setting are amazing. You know, that's one of the things that I get so excited about. People come in as strangers and they leave, you know, as friends and collaborators, and they've introduced each other to, you know, 10 people the first day that they've all arrived back to their computers. And so that feels like a really positive way for people to come and engage. And then a second way that I work with founders is those who are also my coachees. So I'll give you an example of a pair of co-founders that I've been working with for several years now. You know, I began working with one of them at the start of their journey in creating a design studio where they were going to move to another city and another country and, you know, start something from scratch. And I began working one-to-one with one of these co-founders. Over time, I also began working with her other co-founder. And again, over time, we began to design a much sort of richer and comprehensive set of coaching interventions for them that support them both individually and as a co-founding pair. And so as a pair, they would come out and do, you know, sort of intensive development piece in nature for 3 or 4 days together. And we'd be focused on what is it about them and working together at this stage in their company's development that they need to work on. And then, of course, we're doing our ongoing one-to-one work as well. But it's a beautiful way to work because, you know, there's a sense that their development journeys are coming together and staying connected in this regular rhythm. Like we're going to, you know, do this twice or 3 times a year. And we're going to spend these 4 days and we're going to really have any of the conversations that we need to have. We're going to bring up the hard stuff. You know, we're going to go away feeling like we're not carrying that on our own, like we've aired it. And then you have their parallel tracks of their own journeys that are still being supported as well.
So it sounds like people really leave these experiences feeling seen, feeling understood, feeling connected, feeling like clear and grounded in what they're creating and how they're working together. So it does sound like really healing work, when, especially if you're coming together with your co-founder and whatever day-to-day challenges or struggles you might be facing, that you're really able to connect and see the work and your partnership in a different way. I can imagine that for solo founders like myself, having those negotiations alone are also important.
Yeah. And I think for a solo founder, it's nice to feel like as part of your coaching work, there is this like third partner, this third element, which is nature. And, you know, that you have a set of tools that you can go off and have a quiet sort of moment to yourself with nature. And there are answers available in that type of experience. Most coaches, you know, we want to arm our clients with a toolkit that they can use themselves, right? We want to be there as guides and partners when they need it, but we also want them to go off into the world and, you know, brave the wilderness in their own beautiful ways and use those tools themselves. Yeah, I often talk to my clients about that particular metaphor, you know, like I am here. We're going to start this journey. We both have, like, I want you to imagine we both have 2 backpacks. You know, I have a set of tools and skills and questions and experiences in my journey out in the inner and outer wilderness and in what I've witnessed with the people that I've worked with in their inner and outer wilderness. And we're going to go on an adventure together, you know, and along this journey, what I hope I'm doing is filling your backpack. I am filling your backpack with awesome tools and resources and ways of approaching new challenges and getting different perspectives and going out on your own. As I ultimately want people to feel just well equipped for their own adventures, right? And that's where this whole your guide through the internet or wilderness, a good guide, a good mountain guide is also doing the same thing, right? They're saying, this is how we go out into the wilderness. These are the things you need to be thinking about. This is how you can look at and explore nature and the wonder and the beauty that's around you, and a mountain guide is with you for a day or a few days if you're really lucky. But hopefully they've given you some wonderful new tools. And I think coaching, at least my version of coaching, shares that kind of metaphor. And then I want you to go out and explore your amazing wilderness.
Go and
there's
flourish.
It's infinite, It's infinite.
So for anyone who's listening who would love to learn more or get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can visit my website, which is caitlincockerton.co, and you'll find all things about Caitlin Cockerton coaching there. You can also find me on LinkedIn. You can find a very infrequently updated Instagram, which maybe one day I will connect to more frequently. But I'd say the best way is to reach out directly. If you're interested in this type of coaching, connect with me over email, connect@caitlincockerton.co, and we can have a conversation, see where it goes.
Any last words of advice for anyone who's just starting this journey themselves?
Remember that you too are nature. Remember that nature is not just a place that we go and visit in a context that we have to place ourselves in to do optimal personal development, like I've been talking about. But you too are this incredible natural system. And you have all of the wisdom built into this incredible system of yours that will help you to interact, connect, adapt, evolve, and find your way.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful glimpse into the work that you do and the way that, it's such a unique way that you're bringing nature and the wild into people's lives. And I can just feel the power of that. So really, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Caitlin.
It's my pleasure. It's been a really fun conversation. Thank you, Amanda.
And to everyone who's listening, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells. If you enjoyed this conversation, please give the podcast a 5-star rating wherever you listen. And don't forget to hit subscribe and follow along so you never miss a new episode.